There we go. Ask the Podcast Coach for November 17th, 2018.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that fun-filled music. It means it's Saturday. It means it's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com, fresh back from DC Podfest. And joining me right over there, the one, the only, don't be fooled by cheap imitations. You know him, you love him. I'm running out of adjectives. The one and only Jim Collison from theaverageguy.tv.
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. Good to be back. Thanks to Super Joe, who filled in for me. Super Joe Pardo jumped in two Saturdays ago, DC Podfest last Saturday, but it's good to be back. Hopefully we can string a few of these together before I get busy.
Yes, dude. We're gonna start off the show with a tangent. So let's hope I never listen to the show on the podcast rodeo show. My woman in the tube just turned green, which means there's a really good chance that I have a Fitbit on my back porch. Well, we can turn that into podcasting. Well, first of all, if you have any questions, I know Dave was trying to join us earlier. Just go to askthepodcastcoach.com/join. If you want to join in on the conversation, askthepodcastcoach.com/live. We are here every Saturday, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, unless I go to an event. But I am Fitbit-less. This is day 2 without a Fitbit. And I looked at it. I've had one of those things for like 10 years. And so it was really weird yesterday because I woke up and was like, why even walk? It doesn't count. And it dawned on me like how having a goal really in some cases can motivate you to push on through and work a little harder and that whole 9 yards. So, pick a goal. You don't have to wait till January 1st, by the way, to have a goal and go to town.
There's those management statements, right? You need to inspect what you expect, right? You need to, what's the other one? There's another one. You need to, it'll come here in a second. But, when you have these devices that give you metrics off of it, maybe we'll talk about metrics a little bit later around the holidays, but it gives you something to measure, right? It gives you something to shoot for. And so I think in our podcasting, like our steps every day or whatever, we on Home Gadget Geeks, I've gotten a bunch of the listeners to join me on Fitbit, on the Fitbit app. And we actually, every week, somebody starts one of those hustles. I don't know if you do those weekly or weekend hustles, Dave, on Fitbit, but doing it with friends, it changes things. I start thinking like, okay, how am I going to get my steps in today? I think we've talked about that here before. I've gone to Walmart at 11 o'clock at night to get an hour worth of walking in because I needed to. And so I think some of us as podcasters need those little carrots dangled in front of us on a regular basis. Hey, do one more thing this week. Hey, post it in one more spot, do one more tweet, have one more. And really, I think the secret is have one more interaction with your audience. Like that's the key. Like, let's stop tweeting to the ether and let's actually have a relationship with our audience.
Well, you brought up, that's a great point, and that's going to lead me to Stitcher. The app started a podcasting group because, I was thinking the other day, what we need is one more group on Facebook for podcasters to ask, the same questions 6 times, which is fine. Again, we always kind of joke about that. But when you have new people on, they're going to ask the same questions you did years ago when you were brand new. But it was interesting because somebody said, hey, if this is going to be just another Facebook group where people are just saying, come listen to my latest episode, they're like, I'm checking out. Like we've have enough of those. And somebody did say, well, I do listen to other podcasts. And I was kind of like, oh no, that's the wrong answer. And that was my thing. I said, well, really what you should be listening to, in my opinion, not even put in my opinion, I said, is your audience. If you want to make your show better. And I think listening to other shows, like I heard, have you ever heard of, I guess his name is Dax Shepard. He's married to the hot blonde who sings in Frozen, Kristen Bell.
No.
He was in Jackass. So the other reason he's somewhat famous is because, well, he's somewhat famous. And he does something at the end that's really interesting. He interviews other celebrities. Shocking that, it's an interview show. But at the end, he does a fact check. Like they go through and like check like what was just said. And I was like, you know what? Kudos to Dax. That's original. I haven't heard anybody else do that. And what he did, which was interesting, is I listened to, because I was at DC Podfest, and this guy was like, oh, you got to listen to this guy. He's got the best interview, because apparently he had a substance abuse problem. He was molested as a child. And apparently, I've only listened to one episode, but apparently brings up one of these two on a regular basis. And so he had Amy Schumer on, who still has, in my opinion, a substance problem and was molested as a child. And what was interesting is at the end, they kind of had this weird, like the interview ended bizarre, because they got into kind of like Me Too discussions and things that really awkward. And so at the end of this, they had this, without Amy, had this really long discussion of like, wow, I really blew it here and that. And I was like, it wasn't very entertaining. I made about halfway through the fact check because they got knee deep into the psychology of things. But I was just like, all right, there's something new. But I don't know that I will listen. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know if that's going to make me listen. But I think, to me, if you want to make your show better, there are two things, right? There's always listen to your audience and find out what they want. And then there's always, if your show sounds like it was done on 2 tin cans and a string, you might want to get into some better technology or something like that. So, but speaking of growing your audience, Jim, what about we're in the holiday season.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to affect your number?
Well, that's a question I threw out to Mike Howard in the chat room this morning. We were just in pre-show just chatting a little bit, and it was like, do you see numbers? We've got 15 or so people in the chat room right now. You can chime in on this in the chat room if you want. Do we see a change in numbers during the holiday season? And now, here in the United States, Thanksgiving is coming up, and so we had a Black Friday special show last Thursday for our program, and it'll get really good numbers because it's a gadget podcast and people love gadgets. So it's perfect. This season is perfect for us. Our numbers tend to go up a little bit during the holidays. A lot of guys and gals that listen to my program, they get more time off. They're, for whatever reason. But I always kind of wonder, is that an artifact of my show and my genre, or does everybody see a jump? There used to be the iPhone effect where everybody would get a new iPhone for Christmas, right? Yeah. And so you'd see these spikes right after Christmas of listeners. Are we through that, Dave? Are we through do we think now like holidays or gift giving times or these special times? Because is there enough people in podcasting or listening to podcasts now that just evens out throughout the year? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't see a huge bump, but I do still say podcasting. I think more people start podcasts in the winter than in the summer. Like, because I don't know about you, but I had snow on the ground here yesterday and it's getting cold outside. I mean, we're supposed to have a high of, I think, 41 today. So I'm already like, I dusted off my treadmill. I was like, because walking around the block when I got to put, gloves on and a hat, I'm like, okay, we're just going to walk on the treadmill. And so I think that might have something to do with it. Like, people are more indoors and maybe they're doing things that aren't quite so, I don't know. It just seems like casting seems to be a winter sport. I was talking with someone this week at Libsyn, and she did a show all about weddings. And her numbers had kind of taken not a huge dive, but they were definitely on the downward spiral. And it was their first year of doing a podcast. And she was doing pretty good. But all of a sudden it gets to like, August, September, but, was okay. But also in October was like, something's going on. And it was her first year. And I said, I can't say this for, this is not a definite fact, but it might be something you want to look at in the future. Your show might be seasonal, because kind of wedding season is over. I mean, you figure May, June, July, I would think is like wedding season, early spring, early summer kind of thing. I'm like, it may just be a thing where, I said, but on the other hand, if you're doing a wedding planning, there are a lot of people that are going to start planning.
Oh yeah. That's a full year. I mean, I'm hearing, I asked somebody the other day, they had got engaged a couple months ago, and I'm like, so when's the big day? And they were like, April 2020. It's like, really?
Yeah.
So it's that has become a full contact sport, as people. But for me, we were just looking at Gallup. On the Gallup side, I was just looking at our blog numbers, which we mix our blog and our podcast together onto the same platform. And the let's see, we're in November, right? So the October numbers were off some. And so we just tried to spend some time like, what does that mean? Like, we started comparing year over year from October of 2017 and October of 2016. And how do those compare to their annual numbers? What's their percentage based on the annual average? And, you start doing all these calculations. And I think we must have spent like 25 or 30 minutes debating it and talking about it and doing the math and all these things. And I think what it boiled down to is we just did less posts. Like it was, it's just a matter of whenever we do a post, we have an automatic subscription engine that blasts it out to about 3,500 people. Well, if you're doing it every day, you're going to get people to click on those. And if you don't, you're not. And so it was, here we are trying to do all this math, figuring it out. And at the end of the day, it was just we had done less posts, which leads people. This drives podcasters crazy. And I've heard you mention this before. So does that mean I do a podcast every day? Like if that's going to be the effect, right? If my overall numbers are going to go up based on the number of posts I do, it would logically make sense. I should just make a podcast every day. And Dave, I think that's really what pulls in our daily podcasters, right? John Lee Dumas made a killing off of this, of doing it that way. I think it is true. I mean, I think to a point, you're going to get more just because more people are going to click on it. I don't know if you're going to get the listener engagement or everybody's going to be able to keep up with your podcast. That's, I think, the problem is, do they have the time?
Yeah. A great example of that is, I don't know, any of my podcast shows that are not the School of Podcast. Well, this one is a great example. I think we're actually doing better. I think we get like 800 downloads an episode now.
Nice.
But some of my other ones do not. But if I looked at the podcast rodeo show, probably gets 1,000 downloads a week, if not close to 1,200. I get around 300 to 400 downloads per episode on that show. I'm looking at my stats right now. Okay, I take that back. Apparently I'm losing my audience in October. I'm getting about 250 an episode.
Maybe there's something about October. Maybe it's like people, they're in school. Anyways, keep going.
Well, my point is, so let's say let's just make the math easy, 250. That means I get 750 downloads a week. So that sounds impressive, but that's 3 episodes. So it's one of those things, because I look at this now, when I log into my back end, I have 45,000 downloads for a show that's been around maybe a year and a half, if that. I'm on episode 200 and something, but again, I'm doing 3 a week. Let me see if I can see
while you're looking that up, as we were looking at our blog numbers. So those are actually downloads for the Gallup podcasts we set a record month in October, and way back in January, no, it would have been December. So back in December of 2017, we have to set goals. And at Gallup, they give us, we go through, the whole company goes through this exercise and we set goals. And one of the goals I set at the time is to get the whole podcast network to have a 50,000 download month. And the previous record I had in 2017 was 23,000. So I thought, okay, 23 to 50, that's a double, right? That's kind of my mantra at Gallup, is double everything. And so I thought 50 was I thought, okay, that's a really good goal. Man, we hit that thing in October, officially. I hit it a little bit in September, 49,003. I got like 97 away. It's like, oh, we definitely hit it in October. But it was so I don't know, you start looking at these, you try to catch the trends, the blog is down, the podcast is up. You can kind of go crazy trying to figure it out. However, I think it's a good exercise. I think from time to time you learn things about what you're doing, or you might see some trends.
Yeah, I always like to, at the end of the year, as much as I say don't obsess over your stats, I like to go back and export all of my episodes and then sort them by, total download numbers. Now, that's not fair, because I actually was surprised. Last month, my very first episode got downloaded 17 times in a month. I mean, that's from 2005. It's called Your First Podcast Always Stinks. But that one has a huge number of downloads because it's been sitting there for 15 years. So I always like to do that. But then I'll filter it to look at, okay, what happened this year? And it is kind of hard. You can go crazy. And like, I actually one year remember I divided total number of downloads divided by total number of days it was around to see which one had the most downloads per day based on how many. And even that's not fair because you'll have one show that's been out for 2 days. Well, the first 2 days is when you get your most downloads. So it's hard to see that. But nonetheless, you're just looking for overall trends. Are there shows that seem to just get like, that's noticeable more numbers of downloads than others? Because there might be a theme there, a topic that shows you, hey, my audience likes to talk about such and such, So I do that on occasion. I always have to be careful because that is a Pandora's box where I can, like I said, I used to be at least a bit of an Excel guru, and I can go crazy coming up with ways to go, maybe if I divide it by this times that multiplied, the square root of pi, it will show me which one is the most popular. And you're like, no, just don't overthink it and look at it.
So you gotta maintain that balance, I think, of looking at them, but not, well, I don't know. It is helpful at times. I get for the Gallup podcast, I have accountability there. I mean, people want to know, like, what's it doing? Are we doing more than we did? And why? And what are we doing? We hired a new communications teams a couple of years ago, and they have been really good about helping me dig in on these numbers. And they're numbers guys and gals. And so it's super helpful to have these, hey, if we do this, we get that. And the more you get this done, the more these things happen. Having a Facebook group, and I think this is a no-brainer, but having a Facebook group, and I listen to my audience all the time. I mean, I get insane amounts of feedback on our podcasts through our audience. And so that's helpful. Just that helps me influence. We had a guy yesterday jump in. We created these companion guides. They're printed or PDF forms that you can fill in, and they were super, super popular. People love they get free downloads and they can go out and fill stuff in, right? If they weren't there, people would get all upset with me and stuff. But I had a guy yesterday say, like, PDFs, like, hey, the internet called, they want Yahoo back kind of deal. Like, and he was kind of sarcastic about it. Like, and you're like, and I thought, well, okay. At first I was really put off. I was like, oh, we do all this work. We give this stuff away for free. And you're telling me you don't like, what we're doing. The designer put this together. It was super nice. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I do need a more actionable form, so to speak. So it's good. I think it's really, really good. It's not always easy, but it's, if you listen to your audience, they're going to give you what you need.
Darwin in the chat room, Darwin Dave. By the way, thank you to Darwin Dave, dealingwithmygrief.com. He actually recorded my presentation at DC Podfest, which will be eventually in the patron group once I get that where I need it to be. But he asked a great question. Does the day you publish matter? I don't know if I've heard Rob Walsh throw some stats out there. Like if you're doing an entertainment show, it makes sense to do it on Thursday because people check it before the weekend. I don't know that it would. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think if the audience gets dependent on it, I know for me, the way I listen to my podcast now, I know you're going to publish faithfully 50 out of 52 weeks. School podcasting is going to be there Monday mornings. I know that, right? I know it's going to be there. My buddy Rich Hay, same way. He records on the weekends, Windows Observer, and it's there and available for me. I know. I listen to Windows Weekly. I know it's going to be out Wednesday, or I'm going to listen to it on Thursday morning when I get in the car because that was a Wednesday recorded. I try to publish mine Friday nights so it's available for my audience to, in the summer, mow the lawn with it, do the chores, get outside, right? So I try to make that available on Friday night for Saturday. So I'm not sure the day matters. I'm sure the consistency does.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't think it's like, the School of Podcasting has been releasing on Monday. Looking back, if I'd released this on Wednesday, would have gotten more downloads. I think I'm with you because I know I have a few shows that I just know, like for instance, my buddy Monica Rivera does You Want to Do What? She publishes on Wednesday. And so I know when I open up my app, I have different playlists in Overcast, and one is called Friends. And I click on it. Then I'm like, oh, there it is. It's Wednesday. There's Monica. So yeah, I think I'm with you. Pick a day, whatever your schedule is, and then try to go with it. I'm actually, I actually am doing a thing now with mentoring people where you can have a plan where we meet on a weekly basis and that whole 9 yards. And though the one guy I'm working with is going to be pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about it. But he's at the point now where he just needs to record a bunch of episodes and get all the really crappy ones out of the way and delete them. And I told him, I said, well, the other thing you want to do is see how much time it's taking to create these. I said, because eventually, once we figure out, yeah, this is good material to put out, I said, then you got to pick a schedule. And I said, so pay attention to that, because that's really it. And
there's another thing I think that's important when you're to be consistent. I was listening to this guy who does 2 talks about podcasting. Here's what he had to say about that. Let me play this clip.
All my shows are clean, and you're coming in, and your show is called Marty McFace in the holes, motherfucker, whatever's. Yeah, I don't think your show is gonna.
I think that's super important. That was one of my favorite clips from you, Dave, by the way, ever.
What was funny is I forgot about that, and I'm listening to it in Overcast because I always listen to my show before I post it, and I forgot to put in the bleeps, and I was like, "Oh, hold on, timeout." Daniel's head is gonna explode if I let that out right now.
That was so good. I was listening to that in the car, and I heard that bit, and then I was so afraid that I was going to miss this, because I'm like, oh, I got to capture this thing, and I need to get it. I want to put it on Twitter, and I want to do some things with it. And so I actually pulled over and marked the time on a piece of paper. So
you didn't do you know the trick? A lot of people do this. You hit the upper right-hand button and the home button on an iPhone. I always forget, which phone do you have?
I have an iPhone.
Yeah, and you take a screenshot.
Screenshot it. That would make sense.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Then, I mean, there's all sorts of ways. Writing it down is good. I know a lot of people, some people in DC love Overcast because you can go in and click on a microphone button and just talk into it. It's kind of like notes, your voice memo, but it's in Evernote.
Were you scared there for a second that I'd caught your unedited version?
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, did I? I'm like, no, I remember hearing it. I'm like, I'm positive. There is one in the in fact, I need to fix that this weekend in the podcast rodeo show, where there's a show called Pooping, shall we say, Pooping with the Door Open. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, if you missed last week's episode, it was, except I didn't say pooping, and I meant to bleep it out. And I'm listening to it. It's out. It's published. And I'm like, now, on the other hand, that show's marked explicit. And I'm trying to actually go back and fix the explicit ones, because I'd like to actually make that show clean and then just bleep everything out. Mm-hmm. And there are a few episodes that originally I didn't want to change anybody's art, man. It's their art. So if they're dropping F-bombs, I left them in. I'd be like, I'll just mark the show explicit. But Daniel J. Lewis from the Audacity to Podcast, he sent in a thing into the feed listing, because we always thought, well, we know it's India and probably China, but Daniel, in true Daniel fashion, he has this, he worked his, I'm starting to picture Daniel in like a wizard robe or something with a magic wand. He just
Hogwarts.
Yes, he is. Yep. And he does some, because he knows the back end of iTunes, and he came up with a list. It was a pretty big list. And then Rob said, based on that, that's like 25% of your downloads are coming from this place because you want to drop an F-bomb. And I'm like, that's not worth it to me anymore. It's like, so I'm trying to go back and make that show clean, which is not as easy as it sounds. It's one of those where it's like, because now you've got to go back and listen
every single one, right? And then republish them. So bleep them and republish them.
Yeah. And I've got 200 episodes.
Do you republish that then without the explicit tag? Is that the way that works?
Yeah, the plan is going to be, and the good news is most of the ones that have F-bombs in them, I have a disclaimer at the front. Even though it's an explicit show, I always try to, because, people listen in the car with their kids. So I've been just going back and listening, and if it says, this show contains explicit, listener, is advised, blah, 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 then I know, okay, this is one I have to clean up. And then eventually when I go through them, it's just right now I've gone through, just a small portion, and I'm already starting to think, is this worth it? I'm like, it's time consuming. It's monotonous. You have to have a list so you know where you pick up with and things like that. So
I wonder if Daniel, I'll just ask this, I'll throw this out there, and if you want to jump in and join us, you can, but have you gotten any feedback since you published this article? Have you gotten any feedback from people who did get kicked out that are searching, like they got booted for this, and they've been searching why, and they found you and found your article? I know you just published it, but wondering if he's getting any feedback on that. Because he's on to this. I think this is going to be a big, gigantic problem. He says no feedback from the victims yet, but
yeah, I have noticed that when I get notified by somebody, hey, I'm not in iTunes anymore, what's going on? I always love to go and look at their stats. And so far, because Daniel figured this out, you're not losing your subscribers. You just can't get any new subscribers. So it's not, and I'm not saying, hey, it's fine to keyword stuff. It doesn't hurt. No, it does hurt. But it's one of those things now where, well, number one, I just went in and cleaned up all my stuff, but it doesn't, it's just one of those things where, do I have to now once a month go and make sure I'm in iTunes? Because they don't send you any kind of notification on that. So,
which is really bad, by the way. There should be a notification. There's a link in the chat room to Daniel's article. They should be sending you like, hey, you've violated. I mean, YouTube does a pretty nice job of this. Every time you violate, we were doing a show a couple of weeks ago, and the guest was playing the football game, the Thursday night football game, on a TV behind him. Oh, I didn't turn my TV on, but in YouTube flagged it. They were like,
really?
Yeah. They were like, no, this is the NFL. And they even had it by the network, which was crazy. Like they were like Fox, because it's on Thursday night, it's on Fox. And they were like Fox, NFL/Fox. And they blocked it. And they're getting really, I knew they were good at the audio part. I didn't realize they were capturing images that are playing on a TV. And the TV, it's not like we played the whole screen either. It was just a little tiny piece of it, and they blocked it. So we got notified very, very quickly on that via email that said, hey, that thing's blocked and it's not going to work, and it's blocked in the United States. Well, okay, that's most of my audience.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to do something different. And I contacted him and said, hey, I just want to let you know your video is blocked. And he goes, can you just fuzz it out? Well, that's a little bit more. Like, he was on a long time, an hour and a half of fuzzing out the TV every time we come up is a little much.
I did an example of that, of just little things that sound easy, but they're not, is I have a new client, and she sent me her first interview, and she's using some sort of headset. And for the record, it's not horrible. It's very much a headset, meaning there's no bass to her voice whatsoever. So I went in, added some bass, took out some of the mids, made it not quite, it wasn't harsh, but man, it was like right on the edge of like, wow, that's clear. Then her interview guest comes on. Well, now I've got all the bass boosted, and all of a sudden he's I'm like, all right. So it wasn't hard to fix, but I would go into Hindenburg and I would split the audio, and I dragged him down to his own channel where I had the bass and I had different EQ settings, and I would listen to the episode. And when she came back on, I would split the audio and drag the audio back up to her channel, to her. And it was just like, it's not hard, but it was like, so when you say, oh, just fuzz it out, you're like, no, that means I have to sit there and watch it. And every time you come on, I've got to put the blur on. It's like, oh, that's, and
I could have blurred that spot for the whole video, just to be honest.
Right. That's true.
The guest, like, when it flips to me, or when it flipped to Mike, our face.
Yeah. All of a sudden half your face is gone. Blurry.
Like, nah, so I ended up like, I pinged my audience and said, hey, look, this isn't available on YouTube. And they eventually caught the live version of it too. The live one took a while. The one I uploaded, they must have been checking it as I was uploading it, but the live version took 3 or 4 days, and then that one got blocked.
Wow.
And I have a video RSS feed. This is where the one and only time in 7 years it's come in handy. That if people wanted to watch the video, I said, hey, I can make it. It's available in RSS feed, or here's the direct link to it if you want to see it. It actually did that video got more downloads than it normally would through its feed.
Especially now, because you're like, it's been banned in America. You're like, I got to see this. Yeah,
only just because it was the NFL and it was a bad football game anyway. So, who knows? But it was handy to have kind of a backup. I've been messing with, on the crypto space, there's a new platform called BitTube, bit.tube, bit.tube, not bittube.com, but bit.tube. They're making a run at the YouTube platform and of a place to go and host. It's not ready yet, but an interesting concept. The content creators get paid in cryptocurrency as opposed to regular currency, which is going to be a problem for a while. But their file system, they're on the interplanetary file system as opposed to being on the internet, which is kind of interesting in itself. So there's some new things there. But I do think the YouTube model is ripe for a shakeup a little bit. They've gotten a little bossy over there at YouTube. They've gotten a little restrictive on content creators. They've gotten very restrictive on content. And some of that's very, very good. If you go out to BitTube today, it's junk. Like, it's awful. There's some things out there, except my show. My show's out there.
Right.
It's good. That's the one good thing out there. That's kind of what I'm hoping for, actually. But they're making a run at it. So in that space with video and some of these things, I think, there's some interesting things coming with it. But man, YouTube can certainly be. They are a heavy hand, Dave. When they decide to come down, when Google comes down, they come down hard.
It hurts. Well, think about that. Not only can they kill your YouTube, they can pretty much blacklist you in any kind of search. And at that point, game over. Yeah. I mean, people are going to find you on Bing and word of mouth, but holy cow, you went from a fire hose to a drip of being found.
Monetization I had a purist movement a couple of years ago where I was like, I'm going to be a pure podcaster and not take advertising and commercial free. I even said that on our show. So I shut off monetization on YouTube, and I am pretty sure I get penalized for not having money.
Oh, I bet that's true, because that's not in YouTube's interest. So
yeah, no. Why would they push my show up if I don't have the monetization turned on? And so now the new rules, right? 4,000 hours. You have to have 1,000 subscribers. 4,000 hours. I have the 1,000 subscribers. I just don't have the 4,000 hours. And I don't drive people to my YouTube channel. It's just kind of there if they want to watch it. Most of my listeners come in on a RSS feed, but so now I can't turn monetization. So I'm like, all right, fine, I'll turn it back on. Jeez. Then I go to turn it on. I'm like, nope, sorry. And then I'm like, oh, so I'm going to really have to work hard to get my audience to get me up to the 4,000 so I can turn monetization back on, so I can get additional search ranking. Fine. You're like, mistake. But see, that's the power of YouTube. They've got some power over us.
Interesting. Well, you know who has power over me?
That's right. Awesome subscribers.
Our awesome subscribers, especially those that are cool enough to throw in $20 a month. You can do this as well. If you go to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome, we're talking about awesome people like Josh Liston from onthebubblepodcast.com, Greg from debtshepherd.com, where he teaches financial wellness. Jonathan Bloom. Jonathan, for the record, I mentioned him earlier. He sent us an audio clip, and we'll get to why we're not playing that. He's probably feeling like, well, they don't like me anymore. No, we love you, man. You can find him at weeklyawesome.com. Glenn the Geek Hebert, find him at horseradionetwork.com. Josh Rivers over at podcastingexperiments.com. Max Trescott, flying in the air over at aviationnewstalk.com. Shane from spybrary.com. Carrie Bond at keywestperspective.com/podcast. She does the Key West Perspective podcast. Ronsley, my buddy Ronsley down in Australia, find his agency at mustamplify.com. And again, if you'd like to be an awesome supporter, simply go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And we deeply, deeply appreciate that. But I think we did this pre-show. I use a thing called iJingle, and it's super easy. So like when we get the audio clips, I throw them in Dropbox. I go into iJingle. I go, hey, open up my Dropbox and bring this into the app. And I opened up iJingle today, and it literally pretty much disabled itself. I used to have a bunch of, I had clips for Ask the Podcast Coach. I had clips for when I do the podcast review show, anything that I'm playing things live. This is it. And I open it up and I'm like, I've got some sort of weird space shot. And when I go to click on over here on playlist, it goes, click here to get Webcaster. In order to have access to the playlist functionality, please upgrade to iJingle Webcaster. And I'm like, I already paid $20 for this software once. So I'm going to have to look into my license. And I upgraded my iOS, whatever. I upgraded my OS on the iPad. And that's the only thing I can think of that somehow maybe I lost my thing. But so that's one toy. And the other toy that the chat room is already on is the Procaster from Rode. I think it's just called the RODECaster. And this thing looks pretty slick. They have a YouTube video out about it. But it's a all-in-one. You can record up to 4 mics at the same time. You have 8 faders to control different audio levels. You have these little buttons. So like when I play, all the jingles and such, that's going to be there. And then in the video, they say it's easy to take phone calls, echo-free phone and app calls. And I went, ooh, that could be interesting. And so but it's $600. It's not out yet. I don't know if anybody knows when it's coming out. And what's interesting is Rode is an Australian company. So I've already requested.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I went to their website and they're like, look, if you're shipping from the US, politely, I'm completely paraphrasing, but it was kind of like, you need to talk to somebody in the US. So I went over and found their US contact and politely said, can I have one to play with for a couple weeks? So I don't know when it's coming out or what, but it looks like it could be like it has built-in mix minus, all sorts of fun stuff. It looks like, I don't know, an actual podcaster might have been involved in the design of that.
It's set up nicely. What's the retail on that?
At B&H, they're showing it at $5.99.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. So
my only get there.
Yeah, the only thing I think that I see might be missing is it doesn't. Nope, record a micro SD card. Yeah. So this is This is like a mix pre, and then some. Because you figure the mix pre is $600. 3. It's like
headphone volume in there. Maybe some programmable buttons.
It looks like it has 8 programmable buttons.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, this is let me see what's on the back end.
That's a nice price point for something like that.
Well, check this out. There's 4 headphone outs. You got 2 main outputs. This is pretty slick.
Yeah, for a nice mixer, you're going to be in for $300, maybe 4.
Yeah.
And then you're going to need, so this will replace the headphone amplifier. So there's another $75.
Yeah.
I'm right there. Then, you're doing all your programmable stuff right now on an iPad. So add a couple $100 there for the iPad and some of those pieces. So, when you think about it, this could, you wouldn't need it. Like I would never use the other 3 inputs.
Right.
I would just use, it'd be me and that, but for a live show, so other things coming in, if you want to add some stuff in, this would look pretty cool. It'd be, and
I'll be
$600, not bad.
I'll be interested to see if you get online with somebody and you're using this, how it records. It's got to be everybody on one channel. You know what I mean? Like if you have 2 people on Skype, I don't know. I mean, that's just a limitation of Skype, but I'll be interested to see how it handles the mix minus and if you can adjust the volume and if everybody's on their own track. Things
it'd be great if it had some software assist where it would split those tracks virtually and then record them on separate channels through the software.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Because it's got all it looks like it's got all the channels split. So
yeah. Craig says if the preamps are clean, and that's really the only question here.
True.
Are they clean? It's on my Christmas list. I have I got this just to play with it. It's $90. It's a Behringer USB device. The UMC 404 HD, 4 inputs. And then the back has 4 outputs. It's actually pretty slick. The thing I like about it is it has insert channels. So if I ever want to have a USB device, have everybody on their own channel and use the DVX286, now I've got an insert channel and I'm like, ooh, that's now you've piqued my interest. The only thing is I plugged this in because I had a client. They're like, I bought one of these. How do I use it? I'm like, now I have to go buy it. Right. Somebody came in, put a gun to my head and said, Dave, buy it.
It's true. You have to.
But
just
it really
is. Credit card.
Well, there's not much to it, but I did find that with the RE320, it's almost all the way up to get this to clip. Right. So, and then of course, any amp, that's really the true test. When you get up to like, if it goes to 12 and you're on 11, you're like, okay. Cause it starts to get a little hissy. And I was like, so I'll have to test. I've got this. And then I got the, this was sent to me from Focusrite. Cause when they said, we want to sponsor your show, I said, well, then I've got to play with your stuff.
Yeah.
And they went, okay. And I went, oh, doggone it. I should have asked
easy for them to do.
I should have asked for an 818, not a 2i2.
Well, you're not going to use that, Dave.
No.
Come on.
My goal
I know. Bigger is not always better. I mean, it sometimes is.
Yeah. A goal this weekend, and I've said this for literally a month, is to clean up my apartment. And that's one of the things I want to do.
You'd have a garage sale.
I need to. I really do. Because what's up with the woman in the
tell her to settle down. It'll be okay.
Flash briefing.
No, I don't want my flash briefing. Alexa, stop.
Stop listening to podcasts. Ask me to play
She wants to know if I want to listen to podcasts. Alexa, stop. Thank you. Okay,
that's so great. At least she's not tied in. Mine's tied into the soundboard here, so if she goes off.
Yeah, well, normally she would be, but I had to unplug it, and I have, because of the technical thing. So, it appears to be. That's going to be the other great question. Ross asked, "Is this thing portable? Does it have a spec on how big it is?"
Yeah, there's a picture. If you go to their website, so if you go to Rode.com/RODECaster Pro, they got a picture of it on a table with somebody. So, I'd imagine it's about the size of a small mixer.
Yeah. I'm looking for specifications.
Portable,
here.
yes, like totally portable.
Yeah,
it's definitely, they have it in a weird spot on the picture. They have it in a weird spot on the table, but definitely definitely portable. I would get its own case.
Yeah,
if I was getting something like this, I'd get a Pelican case or something like that for it.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing I was looking at. There's cases for the Mix Pre, and there's some really. I mean, I've known about these because I used them, but they've come to where they make them better and smaller, is like just microphone cases. If you're going someplace and you're dragging for, because seriously, mine I threw in a bag, and the only thing I used to like soften the punch was the cables. I'm like, put a bunch of cables in, threw the microphones on them, then threw cables. I'm like, that's not the way to do that. But this is I would officially. What do you think, Jim? Is this the new bright shiny thing?
I think it's gonna be.
Yeah,
I think so.
I'm like, it's a matter of if it's built out of plastic. And $600 that thing cannot, because the thing I just held up for $90 was made out of metal.
It doesn't look that way. It doesn't look plasticky.
Yeah. So the question is, see, my whole thing with the pads, to me, is this going to inspire people to do things live? And I guess if it's recording everything on its own track, that's fine, because that's where, if I'm sitting here talking and I don't know, I go to move my iPad, and all of a sudden in the middle of my show, I just, oh, you can't hear that, doggone it, but I start playing music. Yeah. I'm like, oh crap, now I've got to go back and fix that. So if somebody accidentally hits the button, or I've always said live is cool, because, but all the time you save, because the people are like, oh yeah, when you're done, you're done. And I'm like, hold on. Cause like I said, what if you made a mistake? Or B, the time you spend in post-production, you now stand in pre-production to make sure all your volumes are right and things of that nature. So, but it's cool.
It's got a big red record button. That's what I like about it. Big red record. Speaking of that, did you push record on the?
Did.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. Yeah, big red record button. So you don't, it's one of those kinds of things. Hey, don't forget to hit the record button. Did you?
I did not. That's why my face is turning red.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So we have it. How's our levels on mixers? I might. Yeah. I think. Yeah. Don't you win something when we do that?
I do. It's a school podcasting T-shirt, I think, is what I get credit towards a T-shirt.
I looked over and because I even went through the hassle of making sure I'm not recording channels 3 and 4. It's just you, channel 3, and then I never hit record. That's
super funny. Hey, let's talk about Pandora real quick, because I think that's pretty appropriate. They decide they're going to jump in. Ross had just asked me for my 2019, is that next year? 2019 predictions. Ross always puts together a really nice prediction show at the end of the year, and he asked me about my predictions. I won't spoil it and say what my prediction was, but Pandora's jumping in. I think jumping in a little late on this piece, and I'm just not sure Pandora is the platform, even though they're like in a genome the podcast space.
Right.
I think it's so different than music, Dave, that I'm not convinced it'll work. Like I don't see any reason, especially with the long form podcasts. Like so okay, I just got done listening to an hour-long podcast. Is it going to serve me up another one? And is that what I'm looking for? And I don't know. Your thoughts on Pandora? I'm a little skeptical.
I think the reason, and there's a great article in Rolling Stone about, is podcasting going to save Spotify? And the reason, unless of course you're Amy Schumer, you can get my podcast for free and throw it on your platform and hope that brings over more people that actually pay for your service. I did not realize that Pandora, you can pay $5 and get rid of the ads. And I'm like,
that's been that way for a long time.
Why have I not been doing that? Because I sit through the ads on Pandora. I will say this, that since their announcement, I've listened to at least 3 times more Pandora Pantera. That's a whole other thing. Pandora.
Like that band too. Like that band.
Yeah, exactly. I've listened to more Pandora than I have in the last month since this has been announced than I have in probably. I mean, I listen to Pandora when, and this is the whole thing. It's a lean back experience, right? So when I'm working on an article for something or whatever that I just want quiet music to help me notice that my ears aren't ringing like a fire alarm, which is what happens all the time.
Yeah.
And just something that's not distracting, which is hard for me to do. Because like if it's classical guitar, well, then I'll start listening. I'm like, wait, how's he doing that? So it's really hard for me to find non-distracting music because I can't do the white noise thing where it's just like this just droning, like it's weird. So I like that. And I like the fact that they help me find on occasion new music. But I'm with you. I think it's going to be, because for me, I use Spotify. I used Spotify this morning. I woke up. I wanted to hear some Queen stuff because I went and saw the Queen movie last night. And I'm like, I got to hear Prophet song. Boom, boom. That kind of fits podcasting more because I want to listen to this now. And while Spotify can be very much sit back, they have some really cool options where they suggest songs for me and things like that. I don't know. I'll be interested to see. A lot of it's going to be about this whole genome thing. Yeah. Like how, because I forget, we were talking about this on the Podcasters Roundtable, and somebody said there's an article and they're like, it's like 150 checkpoints that they're going through. I'm like, okay, that could be interesting.
Yeah, but what? Like, what are those? Is it based on listening? Is it based on people thumbing it up or thumbing it down? You know, again, an easy thing to do for a 3-minute song. Not, and I think a totally different listening expectation. I think most of it is planned. Like when we come to podcast listening, it's a very planned experience. I'm downloading it. We talked about this in the beginning of the show. It's the time of the week. It's Monday morning. I'm on my way into work. I'm putting on School of Podcasting. That's what I do. Those are the things. And now, so every Monday now, I have my commute doubled for Mondays because I drive to Lincoln every day or every Monday. So now I'm okay. It's School of Podcasting and it's Windows Observer Podcast. Those are the two podcasts that get me to Lincoln and back. It's very planned. Pandora is a very kind of hit or miss experience as far as like, or finding new things. And I don't know if that's going to be the right mix. Now, if they become another podcast app, in other words, if they divide those out into a podcast section and it gives you a chance to subscribe and do some things and manage it, yeah, maybe. The Pandora, somebody had asked in the chat room, what's the demographics? Pandora's demographics are much older. Like there is definitely a Pandora generation, right? We had Pirate Bay and what was the one where we were pirating music before?
Oh man.
Why can't I remember that?
I hated them. Napster.
Yeah. So we had the Napster generation, right, where we were stealing music, and then Apple came along and sold it, and Pandora came along and said, okay, if you don't want to pay for it, we'll serve it to you like a radio station. And there's a whole generation. I mean, Pandora's got 100 million users, and many of them are paid. So it's no small audience, and trust me, they're a force to be reckoned with. But it is that demographic's a little bit older, I think, than the Spotify demographic, and that actually could work. Actually, that could work into podcasters' favor. I think here's the deal. I think this Pandora's going to struggle to get this actually working. It'll be interesting to see where they go with it. I applaud them for trying. I don't. These folks like Google and finally. And Pandora, at least they're trying, right? We should applaud them for that.
I don't think Pandora or Spotify is actually making money yet. I don't think they're making profit. Obviously,
I don't know. It would be tough to think that. I mean, Pandora's been around a while. It would be tough to think they've made it this long without turning some kind of profit on that thing. You know, eventually people have to make money, and I would think,
Craig. In the chat room from Inglés podcast, 20% of his audience is on Spotify.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm all for it if it brings me another 3%. Because over the past, like Stitcher, I get 3%. I get another X% on this app. I guess my whole thing is, I hope this, like when I hear people are, listening to my podcast on Spotify, I wish we could figure out, are those new listeners or those people that used to listen to in Apple Podcasts and now they're listening in Spotify. I think that's another play why Pandora is doing this, because Spotify did. They're trying to because if you think about Apple Podcasts, their Apple Music, well, they've already got a podcast thing on the Apple side. They've had one for a while, and now Spotify comes in, and now Pandora, is now owned by SiriusXM. So that'll be interesting to see. I didn't realize there's a new movie on Amazon starring Julia Roberts called Homecoming. I did not realize that was started as a podcast. So it'll be interesting to see as these companies kind of buy each other, Sirius and Pandora and things like that. But I'm open. I mean, if you think about it, we're looking at 14 days till December, and that's when the beta is supposed to start. And I can't wait till I can open up my app, because this is only on the phone. The other thing I didn't realize, Pandora is only in the US.
Yeah, just US only.
So I can't wait till I can open up my phone, because I'm in the beta group, and find the School of Podcasting in Pandora and see what it looks like, see what it does, so we can actually start talking about, okay, here's what it does. I do know as of November 17th, at least at this point, hopefully they keep doing this, it's a pass-through. They're not going to host our files. So I'm like, hallelujah.
Yeah, we get better stats that way, for sure. I don't think it, Dave, I'm not sure it's such an audience, I don't think you add a lot to your audience with it, but I do get people who are listening other ways, and then they'll say, you know what, this would be way more convenient if it was in Spotify, because that's where I live. Or in this case, I listen to a lot of Pandora. Can I get it there? I think it's more retention of your audience than it is addition to in the audience. Now, folks will find it. That's going to happen with the millions of users doing that's going to happen. But I frequently now on the Gallup side get comments or questions from our listeners who say, hey, are you on Spotify yet? We just added it to Spotify a couple weeks ago. So I think it's a retention deal. And we continue to, I think we need to be on the platforms to make it easy for our users who are listeners who are in those spaces to be able to get it that way.
Yeah, I'm with you, because I don't want people to go, oh, I listen to podcasts on blank, whatever. And if you're not there, because I realize half my shows are not in Spotify. And that's the thing that always gets me. I want to, for some reason, I'm thinking it's 7%. I'd have to think back what Rob said on the feed. But I think it was like they're like 7%, where, the other, which puts them, that's weird. 7% gives you the number 2 spot. But it'll be interesting to see. But I haven't, they're at 7%, with a ton of us haven't put our show on Spotify yet. Because I realized, I think the only thing that's in Spotify right now is the School of Podcasting. And I tried their own portal, and I put, I think, the 6-Shooter show in there. So that's something I need to,
just drop them. It's super easy to get into Spotify now.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're in Libsyn, you don't have to do anything. You just fill out the form, and when you check allow, it submits you automatically. It's the only destination in Libsyn that automatically will submit your stuff to their platform. We try to do that for everyone, but you can't. And apparently they were smart enough to do that. The other thing I think it's funny about Spotify is they say if you submit using their portal, you get daily updates. And if you're a person on Libsyn, daily updates, by daily, they mean every 3 or 4 days. And I'm like, I'll be interested to see if that's the case in their own portal, because right now their API is, well, number one, their API doesn't have all the stats. So if you sign up on their portal, you get, I think, demographic stats. Whereas if you're using Libsyn or Blueberry or any of these other companies that are able to tie into their API doesn't have all the stats. And I'm like, why do you keep pooping on the people that are promoting your service? It seems kind of odd, but I'll be interested. I'm excited. I mean, we're, like I said, 2 weeks, we'll have a whole lot more about this. I don't think I get that question asked a lot. Like, what's the next big thing in podcasting? And I'm like, I think it's just going to keep growing the way it is. I did have somebody for the first time ever contact me this week and said, hey, Dave, I'm having problem with the Alexa skill for the School of Podcasting. If you ask the woman in the tube to enable the School of Podcasting, it's a pretty cool app. It's a skill that Libsyn made, which also, again, is this close to being released to everybody. And for whatever reason, when they would ask her to resume, I somehow would say oops, for lack of a better phrase. So I need to contact her again and go, did you get that to work? I don't know if you have to uninstall or disable and re-able, but just the fact that somebody was listening to the School of Podcasting on a smart speaker, I was like, well, all right, somebody's listening to this. So I don't I'm not sure that's going to be the answer to everything either. I don't know that, we're ever going to have this giant golden switch. I mean, we had Saturday Night Live did another parody of podcasting, which didn't exactly point us in the perfect light again. It's always interesting when they talk about podcasts. It's always like, literally Binky and the Wiz, and the one guy had a show about peeing on people, and the one award was who can do the most abrupt cut to a advertisement. So it was kind of like, it was just like, all right, here we go. It's the podcast guys, and they're wacky, and they're not very good, and it's, but I do love, I forget the Cecily something. She does a great Sarah Koenig. So if you haven't seen that, just look for the Poddies on YouTube and you'll find it. So Jim, you are sharing your screen. What do we got?
These are the Spotify stats, which I haven't looked at since I jumped out there. So I threw Home Gadget Geeks on there. Not wildly popular on on Spotify. 47 starts, 10 streams, 35 listeners, and 2 follows. You do get some interesting starts and streams, which as you get older, sometimes that's a problem. So it's okay. You can get more. And
then starts and streams. Now what's what?
I think there got to be some definition around. One is somebody clicked on the play button, and then streams has got to have some kind of
they listen for X amount of time.
I guess. Yeah, okay. I don't know. Some listener stats here. Some follows. I've had 2 follows in there. But look at my gender. 89% men, 11% female. Yeah, I know. I'm working on it. And then age. There's my age demographic.
There you go.
35. I always say 35 to 55.
60 to 150.
They wanted to future-proof that, Dave. They knew
I think
that
so.
Robots were coming. And so they were like, yeah, let's just go to 150 just in case. Number 1, Philippines for me. I'm popular in the Philippines.
That's a head scratcher.
Apparently.
Okay.
Well, it could be that Spotify is way more popular in the Philippines for the audience that I listen to. And I have not done a big advertisement on my show to say, hey, we're now available on Spotify.
Well, do they give, is that all the stats? Do they show a breakdown of iOS? That would be awesome.
No.
They should. That's the stat I want.
Yeah. That's all I get. No 0 to 17, no 18 to 22. Apparently, I'm not very popular with the kids.
Nah, they're busy making their own technology. They don't want to hear about yours. They're inventing the things that you're talking about.
They are inventing the internet. Here's our other show, Cyber Frontiers, and let's see if I get some audience stats there. Yeah, so it's a nice looking portal.
Yeah.
Hey, this one is actually nerdier, and it's 60-40. It's because the audience is smaller, but Ireland number 1 for me there. So
see, that's interesting.
It's small. It's because it's a really, really small data set.
Yes. So for anyone using Blueberry or Libsyn or whoever else that has submitted your show to Spotify, as soon as Spotify makes those demographics available, you'll have them in your dashboard there as well. But right now we're all like, hey, Spotify, come here, give me those stats. And they're like, yeah, we need to update our API. I'm like, yeah, exactly. How about you update your API? That would be awesome. But so far, not so much. So, but as we start to wind things up, holy cow, that was a quick hour.
It goes fast. It's great to be back. Thanks, Super Joe, for filling in for me last week, and it's good to be back. We got through 6 weeks of training these students, and we had some dynamite projects. So it was great. But it's great to be back in the chair, Dave. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. And I'm not going anywhere for the rest of the year. You got anything coming up, or
I'll have one date in December. We get the kids back together, but for all intents and purposes, we'll be here on Saturdays.
Excellent. So we are here every Saturday. AskThePodcastCoach.com/live. If you have any questions, we do have a button on the right-hand side. You'll see where it says click to call, and that allows you to give us a voicemail. And hopefully by next week, I'll have my iJingle back up and running, and so I won't be. That was a fun surprise, because it just seemed like everything I was touching this morning was like, oh, that's not working. I had Skype. I had been on an interview last night and wasn't on a call, but because I had Skype open, Google Hangout would not let me use my camera. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So then I had Camtasia open. I'm like, maybe I was trying to I'm closing all these apps. I'm like, which I shouldn't have had open in the first place. But I'm like, why can I not use my camera? So finally, when I closed Skype, I'm like, of course it was Skype. So that's always fun. On the School of Podcasting this week, I have an interview with Kathy Heller. It's an you might say, wait, why is she on the School of Podcasting? Because she's making a living as a musician. But how she did it, you could easily take that strategy and put it into podcasting. Jim, what's coming up on the averageguy.tv?
We did a big Black Friday episode. So if you're into sales and you're into gadgets, you want to get it. The big Black Friday episode is out. TheAverageGuy.tv.
Awesome. We'll stick around for some post-show. We might show a new feature in Libsyn or whatever else, of course, you want to talk about. But thanks for sticking around. Okay. Do I have permission to take 10 seconds to go check my back door?
Totally.
All right. Because it's my new Fitbit.
Yeah, let's do
it. Now it's blinking at me. And I'm like, I think that means it's delivered.
Nice. Yeah. Is it orange? Is it yellow blinking?
It's yellow blinking.
Yeah, then you're definitely there. Right, go get it. Yeah, we'll wait
it's like
for you.
Christmas and here's your present, but you can't have it. I'm like, it's right there.
We'll do an unboxing. Yeah,
take
we'll
a 10-second break.
Yep. No, totally good. So it's exciting. We'll do a live. Hopefully, it's sitting there. We'll do a live unboxing for Dave of his new Fitbit. I'm interested to see what he got. How many out there live have some kind of either the Apple Watch, a Google device, or a Fitbit where you're tracking your steps on a regular basis? Yeah, welcome, Chris. Welcome to the post show. Chris, in our Gallup podcast, he has the responsibility of launching the post show for when we're doing Theme Thursday. So, Chris, welcome to the show over here on this side here. What is it there?
Alexa's a big fat liar. Oh. Yeah, so it's probably out for deliver or something like that. But
just ask her. Just say read my notifications.
Hold on. Let me plug her in so we can all hear what the status is.
Let's see what we got here.
Alexa, what are my notifications?
One new notification from Amazon Shopping. A shipment will arrive today.
That's not helpful.
It's a tease.
It is. It's like, guess what? Something's coming.
Addie uses an Apple Watch. I asked him what they're using out there in the chat room. So Craig asked, "What's the top tip for Black Friday in the U.S.?" I think over and above, this is the year, and I thought this was last year, but there's the digital assistant for sure. So if you have one, this is the year you expand it in your house. So whether it's an Amazon device or Google Home or any of those, they're going to be super cheap, $20-$25 in a lot of cases. Best Buy, Target, you can get them online, whatever. The other thing is Microsoft is making a big run this winter with Xbox, and I think I'm actually going to get one. So
they're fun.
Yeah, they're this would be the winter of Xbox for me, and so there are some really good prices right now over Black Friday on those kinds of things.
I got to tell you, Daniel's comment, if you ever want to slow down time, order something exciting from Amazon.
It has a string theory. It's less gravity. It speeds you up, actually. It slows you down. So what was I saying? It doesn't matter.
Daniel had a great example because I have my School of Podcasting banner that I still keep threatening to put behind me. And then Daniel said what I should do is get a flat screen TV because those are, I don't know how, that's probably 3 feet behind me. I could easily put a flat screen and then put people's pictures on there and then easily switch it to my logo or whatever show I'm doing. And I'm like, that might be something. That and I think Santa has to bring me a new computer. I had a thing this week where I use Text Expander, as you might imagine, working in tech support. I use that a lot. I have 9 gigs left, which in my world is a lot of space. Text Expander will not run because it's less than 6% of my hard drive is free because it's almost full. But at 9 gigs, I'm like, I'm not going to run out of stuff. But I am to the point now where, like, if I record a video in Camtasia, the minute I'm done, I have to move everything to my other drive. So yes, I could go order a new hard drive, but this computer's a little old. And even making Camtasia videos now, which, as you might imagine, using the School of Podcasting, I do on a regular basis. And it used to be click, render video, I don't know, get a cup of coffee, come back in, done. That is not the case anymore. It takes a while. Like I remember I did a half-hour video because it was, I think I was rendering. I would recorded somebody's webinar because I always hate that where they're like, you're at the webinar and then you have to sign up and get on their spam list. I'm like, I'm just going to record the webinar and I'll watch it whenever I want. But it was like a half-hour video and it took like a half hour to render the video. And I'm like, okay, it didn't used to take this long. So I think Santa might bring me a new computer.
What are you thinking you go with from?
I usually just go
you're talking to a gadget guy now. Now I'm all excited.
Now
like,
I just know I need. Oh, here's the thing: I don't have solid state drives.
Yeah.
I'm thinking at least. I think I have 16 gigs of RAM in this computer, so at least that, if not 32. I don't know if that's crazy. And then just look at whatever the biggest, baddest one is, and come down maybe 2. And that usually
you have a budget.
Like a grand. Like a grand. Yeah. Because it's a lot of money, but that's going to last me 7 years, probably 6 or 7. And then I'll probably end up just giving this computer to my brother. Like, Merry Christmas, have a hand-me-down computer. But his computer,
you can never have enough computers. Like, don't give it away.
Well, I have like 4 in my closet that I'm like. It's funny
if they're old, then
I plugged in the one time because I was looking. I'm like, I know I have this somewhere, and I plugged in. It was Windows 95, and I was like,
yikes!
I was like, holy cow!
DOS 2.0. Where did that come from? I'm a big fan for podcasters. If you can, I like to build my own, and I know it's not as hard as it sounds. No. It's kind of like advanced Legos now, right? And I'm just a big fan of being able to get, kind of spec it out the way I want. $1,000 will get you quite a bit on if you build your own, and then you can spec it out to, I like for you what you're buying. I would rather I would focus on processor and memory, right? Because those are the two things that are the hardest to change once you get going. So like a Core i7, a modern Core i7, and it probably, if you can get up to 32 gig of RAM in there. 16 would be fine, honestly, for what you're doing, and it's probably in the right price point. SSDs have really taken a dive. So you can get today you can get a 1 terabyte SSD from Samsung, which is probably the industry leader, $130, like super cheap for that. Those used to be hundreds, $300, $400, $500. So Dave, you could set yourself up pretty nice on a build, and so put a 1 SSD and then get a cheap 3 or 4 terabyte spinner to put in there as storage. You could be up and running easily, I think, under $1,000. You just have to assemble it.
Yeah, I've done that in the past. It's not hard. It's and that way, if you later want to upgrade just a pieces part of it, you can. So I think last time
it's easier that way. I have a really nice. I bought a LAN box, so it was really designed as a gamer box that it's got handles on the side, and you would pick it up and take it with you somewhere, plug in for a LAN party. Well, because it's big and it has lots of room. It does take up a lot of space, but it's super easy to get into and upgrade and put new drives in, or put new video cards in, or some of those things. And I've really liked this box, and I'm trying to think. I think it's a Corsair LAN box. So having that, kind of being able to spec out or pick out those parts. I just picked up on a Black Friday special. EVGA was clearancing out their power supplies, and I got a gold rated 750 watt modular power supply. Normally sells for 150. I got it for like $60. And so I've been picking up parts and I'm going to watch Black Friday for these parts. I am sure I'm going to see a $100 and $99 1 terabyte SSD that I will definitely get on the list and start putting my next PC together. The one I'm using right now is a 3rd gen Core i7 box. It's 5 years old already. And so, it's like, okay, this thing is going to, maybe 4. This thing's going to last me a while, but I want to start piecing together my next podcasting rig. What's that going to be? I want it to be, because I'm already finding as I'm editing video and audio and all those things, I still want it to be faster than I currently have, So that for me, and I think for podcasters, this could be a good season to watch for parts. even if you don't build your own, upgrading your main OS drive to a SSD could be a great option. Adding more memory could be a great option. There are some things you could probably do. Replacing the processor, probably not. That doesn't work that way. But a good time to think about upgrades for sure.
Yeah, because I'm laughing. I have a terabyte drive in my current system, and I'm like, all right, so the next one needs to have 2 or something in it. We'll see. Or what I need to do more in the future is I have somewhere around here an external HD, and I just need to occasionally, take the video and stuff that I'm never and like I'm done with, and just get it off, throw it on there, and then I have it if I want it. I've got a bunch of stuff in Dropbox. I started using it was funny, OneDrive, just because I had it. And I'm like, all right, where's all the stuff that I don't want to throw away, but I don't want on my computer? And I just threw it up in the cloud. And I just hope Microsoft doesn't accidentally delete everything I own.
If you're a Office 365 subscriber, and a lot of people are, they don't even know it. They got it for work or whatever. You may have a terabyte of storage in the cloud that's just there for you, and not a bad place. It's not backup, but it's close. Yeah. And not a bad place to put things. We just on our Facebook group, theaverageguy.tv/group/theaverageguy. We have a guy who just constantly puts tech deals in our Facebook group, and we just had a QNAP device. So that QNAP, Synology, Drobo, they're kind of in that NAS area, right, where you can take multiple drives, put them in a box, and at least get some redundancy and protection that way. And they just had a $170 box that you could put 3 drives in and build storage. Yeah, and QNAP's a really good box. They're kind of on the lower end of price, but their quality is up there. And so, that's another good thing for podcasters as we think, I don't think you can ever have enough local storage for what you're doing.
Liquid wants to know, what's your favorite tech toy for the holidays?
Overall?
Yeah.
Ooh. That's a really good question. That's an unfair question because I'm into so many different.
That's me. If somebody said, like, I have a microphone, I'm looking for the next, like, what should I do to add my tech? I'd go DBX 286. But that is hard to say because I'm like, well, what do you do? Oh, I travel a lot. I want to do recording. Okay, Zoom H6. You know what I mean? It's like it's hard to say what is the favorite kind of thing. So.
Yeah, the favorite is whatever I'm using at the moment. I don't know. I guess right now the Xbox is what I've got my eyes on. I'm thinking I'm going to get in. I'm going to do that. It's time to get into it, and
I have to be careful with that because if I start playing, like, my thumb is okay now, but there was a time when I'm like, man, I think I'm getting arthritis or something. And it dawned on me, I'm like, no, you've been playing Xbox like 4 nights in a row, and I cannot. I start to white knuckle it, and I'm trying to push my thumb through the controller because he won't go the right way. And I'm like, you know what that is? That's Xbox thumb, man. That's what you have going on. Because I quit playing and my thumb's fine now. And I'm like, I just got to watch how I do that. Dan says, here, I didn't know about this. If you have a business G Suite account, you have 12 terabytes for $10 a month. Yeah. Apparently it's unlimited, and he's got 12 terabytes. 12 terabytes. Holy cow.
Yeah, just remember that's not backup, right? It can be if they're versioning it for you. It can be. I have a NAS box called Moro Data, MORRO, Moro Data box, and it's a 1 terabyte cache. So I have 1 terabyte locally, and then it works with Backblaze B2 to back up to the cloud anything that I'm not using, and it does it in a way that the files I'm using all the time it keeps local, and everything else it caches out to the cloud, which is super cool. This week I had was doing some crypto work, and I was missing a key. I couldn't find the key, and so I actually went into the Moro Data box and clicked versions, and I had 17 versions of that file that I could look from. Now I still didn't find it, which was a bummer, but I had like 17 different versions of that file on that box that I could go back to and pull it. OneDrive is also doing some things where, and I think this is on the newer versions of Windows as well, where there's some ransomware protection too. So if you get bit by a ransomware virus or bug or whatever, you can go back to a date and restore all your files from that date forward, because that defeats the ransomware people. They can't go backwards in time to do that. So it's not a bad way to do it.
Jason's got a question about Amazon. He says, I have a dot echo in both of my kids' rooms for music. How would you recommend that? How do you keep one kid trying to play one thing and have it play on both devices? By default, it plays on whatever device you're asking it to. You can, though, like if I ask what's her name to play a song upstairs, I have a group where it groups all my echoes together. And so that way, if I'm cleaning and I want to listen to whatever room, I can do that. I think by default, though, it just plays on whichever device you ask it on.
Yeah, I don't think that's the heart of his question. It's a more of a if I have an account, it'll only play on one device at a time. And then if somebody else tries to use that account, it'll say you're already streaming on another device. Do you want to stop streaming over there? So and I think Amazon is doing some things this spring with family accounts. So Jason, you might want to look into that to see if there's any family options. I would need to dig into that. Otherwise, you'll have to have a completely separate account for that to work. But I would look. I think that's going to be, especially this Christmas, as they're pushing so many dots. They're giving dots away if you start an Alexa skill. They're giving, they're basically giving them away at the store for $20 or $25, whatever they're going to be. Right. So I think they're going to continue to run into this problem. So I would look into the family settings to see if there's a way to get multiple streams going. We have that problem. My daughter is at Northwest Missouri State, and so she'll be streaming, and I'll want to listen to, Bohemian Rhapsody. And it'll say, I'm sorry, it's streaming on another device. Do you want me to stop that now? And sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm thinking yes, but I say no. I know she's listening, so that is a problem.
But yeah, it's funny because at this point, if I bought another Amazon device, I would have to put it in the bathroom because I'm out of rooms. Every room already has. What I might do at this point is I have the original, I forget what it's called. It's not a Dot. It was the, I guess, Echo. I think was the original one. I don't know, the big black tube. And now they have the big silver tube that has the hub built into it. So like I bought some early Philips light bulbs and I have another hub behind me for that. And that basically would replace that. And I think it has Bose speakers in it. I think it sounds better, but I really don't need that. It's like, I don't have a spot. I don't have any, I just ran out of room. And on a weird occasion, my brother will actually call me on my Amazon device because we can drop in on each other. But it's
Jason's more referring to, so it was neither what you or I was talking about. Jason was more, how does he keep one from yelling into the other person's room to get it going?
As long as you don't have the iHome, whatever that is, clock radio thing that can hear me downstairs. There's actually, it's called smart listening or something like that. And basically the echoes, shall we say, in the dots, hear the voice and figure out, okay, which one of us is closer to that audio, and it will answer on that one, is what it's supposed to do. Now, the thing that I actually now get up in the morning, I mute my alarm clock, and I have a dot sitting right next to it, and I unmute that, because if I'm in the hallway and I'm right outside my door, the alarm clock would answer everything because it's just really nosy. But if I'm right outside my door and I yell into my office, the one in my office will answer. Because the dot in the bedroom goes, no, he's closer to that one. So I forget what they call that. Smart technology, blah, blah, blah.
I think they're trying to do some voice training too in the app. Jason, you might want to check your app, the Alexa app for that. I think they're trying to do some voice training where it recognizes by device certain voices. I know that's got to be coming here soon. Like we got to get with all these, in the next 5 years, every room will have some kind of listening device in it. And so we got to get better.
That'll be the fun thing, because it's like, well, do you want it to play on the fridge, the toaster, or here's a question,
or all of them, like all home audio, right? Sync it up that way. That's gotten real popular.
You might know this, Mr. Home Gadget Geek. Is there such a thing as a toaster with a timer? Because
that's a good question.
It dawns on me, like I have my, right now I'm on an English muffin kick, and I have it set to where, they come up exactly right, but I have no idea how long it takes. And it seems to take, again, if you want time to slow down, put something in a toaster, get the butter out and wait, because it just takes forever. And I was like, why is there no, like, when you turn the dial to this, we're going to burn that for 3 minutes.
So you mean the arbitrary number of 4 doesn't tell you anything? Like, what's 4 and what's 5? What is that actually? What's 3, on a toaster? Why do those numbers matter? And what do they actually mean? You're right. You have no idea. So you need a Wi-Fi enabled toaster that has its own app. So then you can put it in there. Well, Sarah just gave me the eye roll as I said that.
Well, everything now. Crock pots have an app. I saw that at Walmart where you can now somehow check on your crock pot on your app. I'm like, really?
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you make sure the temperature is up? And I mean, we've been talking about that in grilling for a long time with temperature probes. So you put your rump roast in the smoker and you attach a thermometer to it, basically a probe, and then walk away. And that way, while you're watching the football game, you can check the temperature of the meat.
Well, here's the fun thing that somebody pointed out. My Wi-Fi went down. Like I said, my whole internet here has been kind of off and on here, and I'm walking into rooms going, "What's her name? Turn on the bedroom," and it's like, "Nope, sorry, can't connect." And I'm like, "Wait, wait, if I flip the switch, does it still work?" It was like I couldn't do anything. I was
Yeah, no, you were running into a world where if your internet goes down, like nothing will work for you.
And then you're trying to check your internet, but you can't because you can't get the lights to come on in your bedroom because your internet's down. I was like, okay, so then I'm, thank God there's a flashlight on your phone. Otherwise, I was like, okay, hold on, how can I do this? So that was a fun little thing that I was like, oh yeah, that's not going to work now because we have no internet.
Chris Townsend was saying in the chat room to Jason's question, it looks like Google, and I think this is true, the Google Home products have a little bit better or a little bit more advanced voice features to be able to separate the audience a little bit. I'm not sure, Amazon has led the way, but Google's got some really good stuff coming with the Google Home devices. And I'm not so sure they're not worth looking at if you're just getting into this. Head down to your local retailer that has both. If you're in the United States, a Best Buy would have this. And test out both. Take a look at them, see what does what. Check out their apps. They've gotten really, really sophisticated. But if you're going to do one, probably an Amazon device would work. If you're going to go whole home, well, you might want to look. And if you have other home automation, you might want to look and see who's integrated with what. It's getting pretty close. And I think in the next 3 years, they'll all be equal. But for now, you probably want to do a little research.
Yeah, I know right now, in terms of just since we're talking gadgets, I'm this close. I'm going to start researching dumping Hulu for Google TV, and the reason for it is I'm paying whatever $4 a month to have no ads, and I'm still watching a heck of a lot of ads on occasion. And I swear sometimes it depends what device I'm watching it on, because I swear I watch a lot of TV on my computer because I have that cool extension that allows me to speed up so I can watch TV at 1.3 like a true podcaster. And I'll go watch it on the Amazon Fire TV, and not only do I have to watch it at the regular speed, which I expect, but now I'm watching commercials, and I'm like, wait, hold on, I'm paying $4 to not watch commercials, and it's especially if I'm watching. It's weird because, and it's like I'll go in and say, hey, would you like to watch Jimmy Fallon? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'm assuming it's pulling from my DVR, and it's not. And there'll be a bunch of commercials. I'm like, hold on, stop. Go to click. Where's my DVR? There it is. Okay, there's Jimmy Fallon. Play that. Okay, now I'm not getting commercials, which is great. It's the interface is getting better, but I'm like, it appears I'm watching a lot of commercials, and I'm like, and every time I'm listening to or anything, I'm just getting a lot of ads. Probably YouTube. Like, are you ready to use YouTube TV? And I'm like, I need to go check the channels and what the prices are and things like that because my Hulu experience is.
I have a buddy using YouTube TV. $40, I think, is what he pays for that thing. It's a little pricey, but he says he just swears by it. He just says it's a great experience and streams everything and local channels and football and all that stuff. And I couldn't justify $40 for TV when I can get it other ways for cheaper.
Yeah,
I find I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. I'm watching YouTube more than anything.
Yeah, I haven't done the Pluto thing yet. They're a big podcast sponsor now. I hear them a lot on Podcast One. Pluto TV, free TV, no credit card needed, blah, blah, blah. And I'm assuming it's all like the Dead Guy channel. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you get an antenna and it's like, I think there's one called Antenna TV and it's like Gunsmoke and, Car 54, all these shows from like the 50s. and 60s and 70s. And I'm like, no, I want to watch Monday Night Football. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get that on some free service. But I am interested. That's just one of those things where I was like, I'm ready.
You are not going to get Monday Night Football. You're going to get nothing from ESPN for free. You will pay. They have locked that bad boy down. It's like you're trying to get the Big Ten network here in this part of the country. We're in Big Ten country here, and trying to get the Big Ten network for anything is impossible as well. You've got to do it through cable and get it that way. I have found, and I think it's just easier to go to a sports bar. Like, it's just easier. And okay. You're like, okay, but Jim, do you realize you're paying for the food and the beer and like that could have been your cable subscription for the month and you could have done it at home. Yeah, but it's more fun. Like it's just more fun at the sports bar. So
I used to do that.
Yeah.
There was a time my ex-wife decided we weren't going to have TV anymore because it was ruining the minds of all children in America and just TV was bad. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, how are we going to watch a Cavs game? She was like, oh, we'll go to BW3s. And I'm like, okay. So we did. Yeah. And I'm with you. It was a lot of fun. It was kind of date night for a while, and we'd take everybody down there. We'd play trivia while we're watching the game. And it's like, okay, that'll work. But it adds up because, when you're throwing in food for the family, you're like, okay, there's half the cable bill.
It's a 50 bill. It's a 50 spot for the two of us anytime we go down there to do it. And you're like, well, but it's an experience, right? And I don't need to watch that many games, and I'm finding that works for me. Your mileage might vary. You just do it.
Right.
You do what works for you, people. Like, if it works, do it.
Well, that's a great question. Your mileage may vary. You mentioned that you now you drive to the office in Lincoln, I think.
Lincoln. Yep, Lincoln.
How long is, because I said, like, when I had a commute, it was still only 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I said that in DC, and people are like, you have no idea. Yeah. Like, that's way short. I'm like, really? What's your average commute?
Well, normally I'm 15 or 20 minutes to the office. On bad traffic days, it's 30. So that's not too bad. When I go to Lincoln, it's an hour. It's an hour there and an hour back. And so that allows me to really get a whole nother podcast in. Most of the podcasts I listen to are 45 to 50 minutes. And so it allows me one more podcast to kind of sneak in, or a bunch of them. Like, I'll catch up on Emily's story behind stuff. Mm-hmm. I'll get behind on some of those. I know they're not date or time sensitive, so I kind of stack them up, and then I'll listen to them all at once. So it added a new. I have a couple more weeks of that, and then we'll take a hiatus for the winter, and I won't make that trip. But I've definitely been able to get some more podcast listening in because I'm on the road. And actually, here I found some back roads that allow me to do it without all the interstate traffic at that time of the morning. So it's really kind of nice. It's a little bit of a country drive out there to get down down to Lincoln. So it's pretty nice. I actually enjoy the commute out there now in the mornings.
Yeah. When I was driving to DC, it was a piece of cake until I got about 45 minutes out. And then it was like 4 miles an hour for a long time.
When I go to DC, it's all metro. I can't. I don't even try to drive.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, we're at noon.
Boom! It's Turkey Day. I'm gonna throw some pants on because I didn't podcast in my pants today, so I'm gonna throw some. I thought you'd like to know that. Just kidding. It's Turkey Day, so I've yet to pick up the turkey. So I'm gonna head out here in a few minutes, pick up a turkey, get the bacon because that's the most important part. If you're gonna do a bacon wrapped turkey.
Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah. We're gonna crush this thing on Thursday. So
nice.
All right, Dave. We'll see you next weekend. Have a good Thanksgiving, man.
All right. We'll see you.
Take care. Thanks, everybody. See you.